Hey everybody, welcome to Keeping It Real. I'm Shane O'Neill bringing you real talk on marketing in the jewelry industry. All right, today I want to talk to you about Instagram. There are a lot of different social channels out there, and you may be using a variety of different types of social channels, but one of them inevitably is probably Instagram, right? Now, all social channels operate differently. They have different functions and they serve different purposes. So when you're using a social channel, you want to make sure you're using it the right way. If you're just posting same content on all of your social channels, you're not really using social media to the best of your ability, and you're not going to get the most out of it. So when we start talking about social channels, we always start with pick your top three, right? What are your top three? Do them great. And once you do those great, move on to adding another channel. That way, you can work these channels the way they were intended to be worked, right? So talking about Instagram, I think the best way to look at Instagram is just to look at the people that use Instagram, the people that are influencers, the people that use Instagram well. And if you see that, you'll notice right away that Instagram's all about lifestyle. Right. And so through imagery, people are able to define their lifestyle, product placement, things like that they do. Influencers do that a lot, etc. So how do you do that? How do you, as a retail jeweler, define your brand lifestyle? Now, when we talk about your brand lifestyle, what do we mean about that? So you have a customer base, and that customer base inevitably has certain characteristics to it that you can market towards. So I'll just give you kind of an example, right? Let's say you're a Rolex dealer. As a Rolex dealer, it's usually pretty safe to assume that you have an affluent clientele. And if you know that your clientele are affluent, you also know a lot of other things about them. Their likes, their dislikes, the types of things that they may involve in, maybe from a charitable standpoint, etc. Right? What kind of cars they drive, what kinds of things they enjoy, fine wine, cigars, whatever it may be. That's if you're in an affluent lifestyle, right? Those are things you can assume based off that. You can also do the same for any other type of customer, right? Maybe you're a jeweler that lives a jeweler in a small town, right? And maybe you have a big farming community, right? So there's a different type of lifestyle there. So define what that lifestyle is, understand what those interests are from your customers, and bring that into the content that you put on Instagram. So now that we know kind of how we establish what your brand lifestyle is, be consistent with it, right? It's best to be able to mix things up on Instagram. I wouldn't suggest putting just groups of staged jewelry photos on there, right? We want to see lifestyle. We want to see people wearing. So you want to see a model wearing earrings or a ring or a watch on a person, right? So those are what I mean by lifestyle shots. And those are what really resonate, and you can incorporate those along with other types of content on your Instagram page that allows people to connect to you. So when we're talking about content, we also want to talk about the type of content not to put on Instagram, right? So if we're talking about lifestyle, that doesn't really include generic pictures of jewelry on white background, right? That's 101 stuff. That's not what Instagram's really for. We don't really want to put that on Instagram. Say it's not interesting. So that's out. The other thing that's out is putting content in your feed that's related to sales or special events, these very specific timely things that happen and then they're done and over. Now you could certainly delete those after you post them, but why put them in there at all, right? Let's not muck up your Instagram page with sale notifications, things like that. A better way to do that would be to use stories to promote those special events, right? And then you could apply some advertising, which is another topic, right? But you could apply some advertising, promote that story for that event. So let's keep it out of the feed. Let's keep our feed clear. Let's keep our feed focused on lifestyle and defining your brand lifestyle, your brand position, right? Now, how do you get the content, right? So it's not really that difficult, right? So, an iPhone can take amazing photos nowadays, no problem. If you have a sense of lighting and things like that, you can take a series of photos real easy. One of the ways that you can get content, and great content, is to take a lot of pictures. And you can take a lot of pictures by encouraging people on staff and your store to take photos. What do I mean by that? Well, typically, if someone's going out to a nice restaurant, or if they're going to a special event, maybe a charitable event, or there's a concert or something like that that's happening locally, maybe they bring some jewelry with them. They do some shots there, some lifestyle shots at the show. They take maybe 15 or 20 shots, and then you have some good content. You can go through and pick the stuff that you like. You can also do what we call a content curator. And a content curator, really, that's just a central person that works at the store that helps facilitate gathering all this content. Now, the content curator, in most cases, will generate a large amount of this content, right? So they'll create content that they can use on other social channels. They'll shoot the content themselves. They'll plan some types of photography that they want to take, etc. But, like I said, it's always good to encourage other people to be involved in taking that kind of content, especially in the local, as they're traveling around in the local area. So you can use those people, and a content curator sort of your filter, where they get all their information, they send all their information, send all their content, and they can look through that. The content curator can look through all that information, and you can pick out what kind of stuff you want to use on Instagram, right? So now that we're talking about kind of what types of shots, what we can take, let's talk about other things that we can do that bring in your local community. So this is sort of affiliation marketing, right? So a good example of that is, let's say that you or someone in the store were going out to a restaurant, and this restaurant is well known in your community. Everybody likes it, has the best food. So they probably have a great reputation. Everybody likes them. Well, that's a business that you want to indirectly affiliate yourself with. So how do you do that? So what a great post would be, a great lifestyle post on Instagram. Perhaps you're at the restaurant, order a glass of wine, or sort of stage a photo where you're holding onto the stem of the glass. You've got a nice ring on. Maybe it's an engagement ring. Maybe it's a fashion ring. Maybe it's a bracelet or a watch. But you're holding on to the stem of a wine glass. And in the background, you can just make out the menu from the restaurant, right? And so people then identify that restaurant with you. And if that restaurant has a great reputation, they identify you with that same concept, right? So that's a great way to do that. And it also brings a sense of community, right? That nothing shows you're local more than being taking shots and doing things with the local community, right? So that's one type of affiliation that you can do. You can take it another level up if you want to, in terms of other types of brand affiliation. So again, going back to that example of a Rolex dealer, if you're a Rolex dealer, it's safe to say that perhaps having affluent customers, they probably drive BMWs, for example. So imagine a photo where you have someone wearing a fine watch. They're holding on to a steering wheel, and in the corner, you can just make out the BMW logo, which is very noticeable, right? And so now you have a brand affiliation with BMW. And it's also more than likely things that are in common with your customers, right? They like that type of car, perhaps, right? And there's many other types of things you can do with that. We talked about, cigar aficionados and all this other kind. Your customers better than anybody. So what are their interests, and how do you bring those in? And how can you bring in brand affiliation from the products that they use that are not jewelry related, all right? Because that is a connection for you on multiple levels. So brand affiliation is important as well. The other thing that is great for Instagram, and there's nothing better than using customer posts on Instagram. Now, how do you do that? By using hashtags, right? So, for example, let's say that every bridal customer You gave a small little card, says something congratulating them on their upcoming engagement, etc., and encouraging them to, when they post on Instagram, because you know they're going to, when they post, to use a special hashtag related to your store. So let's say you're Main Street Jewelers, then maybe your hashtag is hashtag my Main Street engagement, right? So you can put, or if you use my last name O'Neill, my O'Neill's engagement, right? If I'm the store. So you use your store name and create a hashtag, a special hashtag for that. That's unique to you, by the way. You don't want to use generic hashtags, because at some point you're going to want to filter that hashtag, and you can bring in galleries of all the people that proposed and use that hashtag and posted it on Instagram. That's a great thing to put on your website when you have enough people that have done that, is to be able to filter that your special hashtag, and that brings in photos of all the people that have purchased engagement rings from you and proposed. So that's another great way to use Instagram vis-a-vis your customer base. So it was a quick podcast today. Wanted to kind of just touch base on Instagram. I think that when you start talking about social media channels, remember every social media channel has its own flavor. It has its own function, and it serves its own purpose. So make sure that you sort of create a strategy that's based on how you use that channel, how that channel is used by consumers, and you'll be able to get the most out of your social media. So I hope you enjoyed today's quick little podcast about how to sort of define your brand lifestyle on Instagram. Stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll have more podcasts coming up. Thanks, and we'll see you in the future.